after an underground nightclub raid in Colorado Springs. Our Denver 7 Investigates team was at the scene early Sunday. According to DEA sources, 17 military members were there, 8 of whom allegedly served as security.
Colorado Springs has just witnessed one of the most stunning federal nightclub raids in recent memory, and the results have shocked even seasoned agents. In a single night, 115 people were detained inside an underground nightclub that had been operating in plain sight, right in the middle of the city. Among them were 17 active-duty military members, a detail that stunned investigators and raised questions about just how deep the connections between organized crime and trusted institutions might go. Federal officers described the scene as something out of a movie. Flashing lights, streets blocked, hundreds of law enforcement swarming the area, and crowds of shocked bystanders watching as agents stormed through the doors. This wasn't a hidden back alley den. This was a massive operation taking place inside a packed club that looked from the outside like any other late-night venue. But inside, investigators say it was something very different, a hub of drugs, prostitution, and illegal activity running under the noses of the community. The numbers alone show the scale of what happened. 115 people detained in one sweep, 17 military members confirmed among them. Dozens of others unable to show legal status in the U.S. agents say the nightclub was not just crowded with partygoers. It was packed with individuals tied to trafficking networks and criminal activity. The DEA revealed that 105 of the detainees are still in ICE custody as investigations continue. For a city like Colorado Springs, known more for its military bases and suburban neighborhoods than cartel-linked crime, the shock was immediate and powerful. Local residents who woke up to flashing headlines on Sunday morning were left wondering how such an operation could have been running right under their noses. Officials stressed that this was not just a raid. It was a coordinated strike, carried out with overwhelming force and designed to expose a network that had been growing bolder by the day. At least 300 officers from more than 10 agencies took part, converging just after 3 a.m. on the intersection of South Academy Boulevard and Airport Road, where the nightclub was located. Streets were sealed, vans lined the area, and federal agents in tactical gear poured into the building. Witnesses described a scene of chaos. Doors broken open, music cut short, and dozens of people dragged out in handcuffs as helicopters hovered overhead. Law enforcement called it a show of strength, a message not only to the operators of this nightclub but to every underground network in the region. Federal agencies are watching, and they will act. The raid also confirmed long-held suspicions. The nightclub had racked up more than 170 calls for service in the past year alone, making it one of the most notorious hotspots in the city. Neighbors had whispered about what was really going on inside. Fights spilling into parking lots, strange traffic at all hours, and rumors of drugs being sold openly. Now, with the club finally shut down, federal agents say those rumors have been proven true. What they uncovered was not nightlife, but organized crime hiding behind neon lights and music. For the DEA and ICE, this was not only about taking down one nightclub. It was about showing the public the dangerous truth. These operations are no longer tucked away in hidden corners. They are running in plain sight, in the heart of American communities, until law enforcement decides to strike. The most shocking part of the Colorado Springs nightclub raid wasn't just the number of arrests, it was who was inside. DEA sources confirmed that among the 115 people detained, 17 were active-duty military members, and even more alarming, 8 of those service members were not there to party. They were reportedly working as security inside the club, guarding doors, monitoring crowds, and standing watch as drugs and prostitution took place only a few feet away. For investigators, the discovery immediately shifted the focus. This wasn't only a case of illegal activity in a nightclub. It was now a matter of potential corruption inside the very institution tasked with protecting the country. Officials have launched a federal investigation to determine how deep the ties go between organized crime and military personnel. Were these service members freelancing for quick cash, or were they knowingly protecting an underground network linked to trafficking? That is the question federal prosecutors are now pressing. Military investigators have already been brought in, and the Department of Defense has confirmed it is cooperating with the DEA to uncover the truth. The idea that American soldiers, men and women sworn to defend the Constitution, might also be moonlighting as enforcers for cartel-linked operations has sent shockwaves through Colorado Springs, a city that sits in the shadow of several major bases. For the public, the images were hard to process. Men in uniform on one day, standing guard over an illegal nightclub the next. Sources close to the case told reporters that the military members were found stationed at entry points, controlling who went in and out, and in some cases patting down customers. Witnesses from inside the club said the presence of uniformed, disciplined figures made the place feel untouchable, as if no one would dare challenge it. That illusion came crashing down when federal agents stormed through the doors, zip-tying both civilians and service members without distinction. Photos from the scene show camouflaged military bags piled up with civilian coats and jackets, evidence of just how closely intertwined the operation had become. The discovery has raised urgent national security questions. If 8 service members were working security in one nightclub, how many more could be tied to other criminal enterprises across the country? Could cartels or organized networks be deliberately targeting military personnel for recruitment, offering quick money in exchange for loyalty? Investigators are not ruling out the possibility. The concern is that if criminal organizations can infiltrate the military, even at the local level, they gain not only manpower, but also access to skills, discipline, and potentially even equipment that could make their operations more dangerous. Federal officials are treating this angle with extreme seriousness. The military has promised a parallel investigation to determine if regulations were broken and whether higher-ranking officers had any knowledge of their soldiers' activities. The DEA has made it clear that no one is above the law. Uniform or not, if you stand guard over an operation tied to drugs and trafficking, you will face consequences, one agent said. For Colorado Springs, a city proud of its service members, the revelations cut deep. Families who see the military as the bedrock of the community are now asking how something like this could happen under their watch. The presence of 17 military members inside that nightclub turned what was already a major raid into a scandal with national implications. It showed that organized crime isn't just corrupting street-level operators. It may already be reaching into institutions once thought untouchable. And that is why officials say the raid is only the beginning. The next steps, interrogations, investigations, and prosecutions, will reveal just how far those ties go, and whether the breach is an isolated embarrassment or a symptom of a deeper, more dangerous problem within the ranks. The scope of the Colorado Springs nightclub raid is best understood through the numbers, and the breakdown paints a picture of just how wide this operation really stretched. Out of the 115 people detained, DEA officials revealed that 105 remain in ICE custody because they could not prove legal status in the United States. The list of countries of origin makes it clear that this was not a local operation but an international one. Detainees came from Guatemala, Cuba, El Salvador, Mexico, Venezuela, Colombia, Nicaragua, Chile, and Honduras. Each name on the list represents not only an individual caught inside the club, but also a link to the vast international pipelines that fuel organized crime in America. The raid did not just expose one nightclub. It exposed a gathering point where local activity and global networks collided in full view of the city. For law enforcement, this was the kind of operation that confirmed years of suspicion. Neighbors had long whispered about what was going on inside, but the scale still shocked them. A nightclub that looked like an ordinary nightlife spot was, in fact, serving as a hub where multiple nationalities, multiple networks, and multiple crimes intersected. When agents stormed in, they found not just Colorado Springs residents, but individuals from across Latin America, many of whom are now under federal review for possible cartel connections. That discovery alone explains why ICE took such a heavy role in the raid. Immigration violations were only part of the story. The bigger concern was whether cartel-linked operatives were using immigration loopholes to build manpower right inside American cities. The arrests also revealed how layered the crime problem had become. This was not just a case of people drinking, fighting, or dealing small amounts of drugs. The mix of detainees included individuals flagged for trafficking, others suspected of prostitution rings, and at least 2 fugitives with outstanding warrants. Colorado Springs police later confirmed those fugitives were wanted for violent crimes, meaning the nightclub was not just a party space, but a magnet for criminals who knew they could hide inside a crowd protected by chaos. The fact that so many different crimes converged inside one location is why federal sources have described the club as a command post rather than a simple nightlife venue. Officials pointed out that this was the culmination of months of intelligence gathering. The club had changed locations multiple times, moving around the city to stay ahead of law enforcement. Each time, it drew larger crowds and generated more calls for service, eventually racking up over 170 calls in the past year. Complaints ranged from loud disturbances to suspected trafficking, but the pattern was always the same. By the time police investigated, the club would vanish and reopen somewhere else. That cycle ended at 3 a.m. on Sunday morning when 300 officers representing at least 10 agencies surrounded the location and moved in with overwhelming force. Streets were sealed off, buses lined up, and suspects loaded in waves as the building was cleared. For Colorado Springs, the numbers from this raid now hang like a warning. 115 detainees, 17 military members, 105 people held by ICE, spanning 9 different countries, 2 fugitives taken down, 300 officers required to shut it all down. Each number is significant on its own, but together they describe the size of the threat that had been operating undetected in the heart of the city. Federal officials say the case is not closed because every one of the 115 detainees will now be processed, investigated, and potentially tied back to larger networks. For a city not used to being at the center of cartel-linked investigations, the message is clear. Organized crime is not just a border issue. It is here, it is international, and it will take massive operations like this to even slow it down.